Hello, Americans. Years ago, after my class had graduated, a person I never saw on a Wethersfield campus in my life, and his neighbors I never saw on a Wethersfield campus in my life, Maria Pizzino, and I don't know a bunch of their neighbors. One of them was tied to, with the name Fianza, across the street from a South Seville, who was in my fourth grade class. And increasingly, people who were in other classes were putting fake things in databases and putting fake ties and nature ties to me next to campuses. So, and they're not just doing it to me, they did it with the news too. And child abusers, leaders of kids, years apart, proven, first forced, they were collusions with the families involved with that. Also with other natures of organized crimes. These are also medical families, like one's named Leahy, pretended ties to me, and with the news, and with Wethersfield police. They have some Mendez police involved with people from Saudi Arabia. They forced the collusions with them, and with multiple falsified police reports for the same arrest. They also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, intercities with multiple police departments, with retired Wethersfield police chiefs, with house involved with the child abusers, leaders of kids, and intimate ties to themselves and their families. They have a bunch of intelligence families with East Hartford. Well, they better not be messing with my TuneCore either. There's a former director there because they said on TuneCore, someone messed with my account from East Hartford. It looked like it might not be me. Plus, they already messed with Hotmail, YouTube. They have YouTube. Brian Bonin was selling mescaline at the same time when he called me. Or no, when someone told my parents, because someone that worked for my parents had reported that there was a car next to their house with tinted windows. And I called him and told him. I didn't tell my father that, but he had the mescaline. And I was just learning about, because I knew I was going to have to do this to defend my own kids someday. Because there are connections between him and other people I don't know at all who went. There were brief instances who were brought up before and after the World Trade Center attack as their collusion /us with it. Also through how they have roles with all sides of criminal and civil cases, the interbranch, the intelligence, foreign and domestic, how they're mixed. They have collusions at the same time. And with body dumping spots years apart. And their roles with some untimely deaths. I don't know, in other words. And they're trying to start fights between neighbors. And they effectively do it because their intelligence families, like I don't want, a good person will warn someone. Then you can't even warn someone because they'll change and take what you're saying, make it like a threat. It's not a threat. I don't want to hurt anyone. That's why I'm trying to warn people, so I don't want to hurt people syntactically. I asked them to respond for what I caught them doing. They have an inspector, Mike, with the fire departments and with the Wethersfield police, involved with the FBI and other police departments and types of police, state police. Whiting Forensics is a bunch of people with the same house /S, involved with families that don't even, intelligence families that don't even live here anymore. A whole bunch of tied to them. Plenty of evidence all sides of my house. I can't get one person to calmly respond for this. They probably put fake things in databases for them already, too. In other words, you guys shouldn't be cowards. I understand. It's scary to be, in other words, just speak about, I'll get the Wethersfield police chief on paper with the interbranch switching and forging names. There's a Mendez police. I went down there with my friend to get a police report that Bob Chase said Phil Collo is involved with. And now it's, there's a Mendez, apparently he has a brother named Eric Mendez. His name was reportedly by someone called Janito. I don't know, but he wrote something else. But they put multiple falsified police reports and try to make it look like I spoke with. I never had a word of conversation with him, let alone a sentence. Stole a sentence I said to my friend there. In other words, change it, put it on the paper, and make it for what? For a falsified people, a hyper additional one. They're refusing to identify themselves too. He has collusions with a Phil Cololo. And then after that, this is on my street too. A Phil Cololo, I only saw him one time swerving a bike after one of the people that was yelling out one of the names of one of the kids that he's involved with abuses of them. Then I saw the Phil Cololo, so I know it's tied to him now. It could have been some other reason he was saying out the name. But now I know it's a threat. And it's a recorded roles with predicate acts with facts at kids at different campuses. And there were collusions with it. And they're lying about their motives, and they're using the real motives for it too. Michael Emmett, they should have fired him instantly. They're not caring about, they didn't care about his career. And they're bringing up privacy dishonestly with the Board of Education and the companies involved with the technology there. These are people trying to record things, faking things. Collusions with untimely deaths with the Robert Rodriguez that brought up the principal child abuser's campus. And a bunch of doctors, foreign and domestic, tied to people named Scalora, involved with identity theft, fraud, sin, but I never saw them on campus in my life. They try to make one exception, fake exception, in a Glastonbury campus, putting people next to me that sought me out to make it look like they know me, tied to the same house with that. That's how I knew I didn't respond to Robert Rodriguez 2 times on my house across the street, using the field across the street from my house to make it look like I know him. Never spoke to him. Rather. I didn't have a word of conversation with him when I was standing near him on Route 3. Intelligence take pictures of things honestly, dishonestly, to use truths for lies, and to use truths to screen lies and criminal foreign influences. I don't know all their names. There's a Kerr family and a Robert Rodriguez, and they said there are other families on the other side of the church. They have roles with the church. And now it's a different type of church on Route 3, which is increasingly involved with people tied to a Mark Violet and Mike Violet too, and locations associated with them, like off of Ridge Road in conjunctions to that and to that. And their educators recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed collusions with them, with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, the crime scenes, and interbranch at the same time with the same sequence shifts and depositions. And then years later, collusion/S, where they're all self-valuing that, forcing that quality of fact, those qualities of fact, true nature, and that overall quality, criminally foreign influence. Just with black people's whites of eyes, we have means to discern this. Many Americans we believe and all think at the same time, things that don't collude with the people that formally speak for. And, this is our sources from this campus. These campuses are criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. People, all kinds of organized crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, acting so others could take pictures to pretend people were in places they weren't and tied to people they weren't. Like with the FBI and courts, with a bunch of people at Quinnipiac University involved with a Kevin Harris. I never had a word of conversation with him in my life. His mother is involved in increasingly with sexual and medical offenders of kids. Identity thefts, frauds with a Fred Grouze too. Increasingly people on Two-Rod Highway and conjunctions to it and to that have roles with untimely deaths. And people that have roles with different kinds of drugs through the kids, acid, mescaline, their roles with the kids next to the campuses, and then they get them involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, pretending others use alcohol, things like that. A bunch of people at Harvard Hospital tied to a Christina Sioka. They faked conversations with me. They have roles with Miami, with Orlando, Florida, with Washington, D.C., with New York, with Boston, with Massachusetts, with Maine. They have former Governor Malloy involved with a bunch of male and female intelligence families and interbranch families, retired and standing, involved with East Hartford, increasingly involved with the Elm Streets in Wethersfield and Rocky Hill along Route 3, collusions intercities with multiple police departments, judges, prosecutors, their kids on Covington Street in New Britain has something to do with a whole bunch of people with modern, since before Mazzucato Bakery was there. And they're reportedly tied to the police chief Cintron and people involved with the shopping centers, with his extended family, Mazzucato Bakery people, and Modern Pastry tied to a John Maiano, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, sequence shifts with them, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. I never saw a Mazzucato on a Wethersfield campus. Increasingly, people that put fake things in Wethersfield campuses have collusions with the corners and people, conjunctions to them associated with the police chiefs retired, as ones involved with interbranch switching names, forging names, and refusing to get on paper. Since the World Trade Center attack every year, intercities, they have roles with untimely deaths, murders, confessions, all these things that were brought up at the same time too, with the people that are in a line of collusion /S, hiding what I caught them doing. And we had people, they affected requests to help from me from before the World Trade Center attack. But I noticed there's not one body capable of being a quality of fact sheet nature necessary to overcome uses of tactically juxtaposed, tactically distinct natures and methods of organized crimes and their cover-ups, including news, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and extortion roles. So Connecticut News is in their networks and their sources too, right through. So you're not supposed to sell Fox News without telling that. They have Judge Napolitano's sense and sensibilities too. They just hide and plot. I rap a lot. They have the phrase talking heads involved with people that were involved with home break-ins in my area. And there's a mother and daughter with the name O'Neill. Or no, a mother, their kids in the intelligence family with the name O'Neill, who have their kids involved also with WTNH and the FBI. And FBI Director Robert Luskin with various natures of federal criminals since before they were caught, and their family members, including some as his co-defendants, including their collusions with a whole bunch of people next to Fox Connecticut News, next to WFSB Channel 3 News, next to WTNH, which is next to them is the FBI too now. FBI has all kinds of self-value wire crime acts and methods. A whole bunch of people say, oh, that's not my job. They value, look at that. Everyone's just rushing to give it. Oh, even if the person says, oh, I did that because they're left wing. That's because that's all I know how to speak, because you guys make left wing, right wing mean what it doesn't. Because when you're trying to defend yourselves, you guys are shocking off how stupid, fake the other side is. It's because both sides are sickly distinctly hurt, sickly distinctly preventive free speech, forced to pretend other to an extent, or it's a sense for the breaching method, anyone not, including that body is a majority of people, including if it's a united country. Any grouping of countries still entertaining locations, areas, and states. Fact, cheap nature, quality aspects in nature as is. It's criminally foreign influence, can't defend its logic, fact, cheap nature, quality aspect. You guys have our founder's plan. James Madison's plan replaced from the answer /S it gives. You have replaced what they had declassified for themselves and for us, all the reasons why and how. No one had free speech. Everyone had to pretend to others simultaneously. They were internationally monitored conversations to make sure, for example, that everyone is an extent of collusion /S against themselves and against others syntactically, therefore physically. And it was sickly, distinctly northern colonies, southern colonies, because the difference of that in the group, that was used too, where everyone estimates about leaving out the hyperforeign, that which had even slavery entrenched roles with that northern colonies, southern colonies, then America's founders were born. What nature of unity could be once everyone comes out of that, which no one wants anyway. What nature of independence simultaneously. And the difference of that, what nature of people could appreciate the difference too. Those are three differences. Three distinct parts bound by that which is generating totally different individual species bodies, each one of those made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies, just like the individual human body. species body, made up of a whole bunch of individual bodies. Male, female are manifest two of three connected parts of its identity relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that as the part of itself that is generating all these things, that is generating totally different, but they're distinct but non-distinct too. Like birds have two eyes, distinctly from human eyes, but non-distinctly too, and simultaneously, but also per that further distinct identity of simultaneous nature. That therefore referred to as the hyper-simultaneous. Black pupils, peer, in other words. So you guys need to get on that paper and not change. You guys, there are only three branches of government. They're kept criminally foreign influence. A little bit, it's the CIA. They have, I want to make the theories all day. And that's used to hide behind and through. Because the breaching method employed other things, others ourselves, to be blamed for things that it caused and keeps. And it knew that nature would demonstrate how it caused those things and how they were blamed on others, while it was demonstrating that actively being done. And while it's being used to show the names of the people, the sciences they can't afford to have, what's practical for the future's voice, for the future's discernment. Know how the future that is not here now, like seasons that aren't even here now, but they're still hyper invisible, but still discernible. Even if they never get here, their value is only increasing too. That's also hyper invisible, but still discernible. The past, it is not here now, but you could still discern it. And you could still discern the value of it is only increasing value. Here, even once it's gone. Here, or it is forced from here, if we be and stay, system was tactically ulterior from its own. It shows us how to explain its own. The parts of our body have a semi-nature relationship to our complete identity / identities as a human species body. Please don't make me beg. In other words, you're going to discern intercities that have whole predicate, whole careers are kept criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. They want people jump in all with everything. Then they want people to go before courts, comp. They're psychopaths. They've been put in collusions with crime scenes from courts since founding, too. Forgiveness is because that's all that's capable of the names of the people, the sciences, and of the counters to them, like overt criminal enterprises, private ones, kept needing to hide the same sequence, same delusions with them, the same criminally foreign influence, tactical delusions, raw, fact, human nature, quality, aspects, quality / qualities, aspects / aspects, in nature / s, like wrongdoers, wrongdoing, styles, needs, and nature, criminal insidiousness, nature, positive treatments, negative treatments, collusion / s. You think one practical voice for science spoke about what actually is being demonstrated by nature regarding how the whole ocean is polluted? Why? How? Really? Guys are out of your minds. Space means come out of nowhere. When the whole species body is in the same planet and blaming the same thing, a hyperforeign. This employed since before religious messengers, the locations, areas, and states everywhere the human species body is, more and more needing to counter what a hyperforeign body did just to get them to counter improperly, and then to have that needed to be countered and have that countered in public. So all the names operating the names of countries A through Z, more and more without realizing they were blaming other things, others themselves, and forcing that for things that the human species body system was showing us to blame on a hyperforeign breaching method. And we all understand the things that we agree about with this. But people jump in and try to pretend and pull us and pretend we agree about things, and they break exceptions too, putting fake exceptions, pretending offensively you don't realize exceptions. Oh, but that's our job. How many times people said that with colonization, with that crazy, sickly distinctly against women, sickly distinctly against men, sickly distinctly against boys, sickly distinctly against girls, sickly distinctly against black pupils, whites of eyes. Had slavery even entrenched roles within northern colonies and southern colonies, and then America's founders were born. People don't even realize it's not because they didn't do their homework, because the principles and the syntax nature of their homework, whether they did it or not, it was this collusion, /s, blaming other things, others ourselves, for things right where our founders told us to blame those things on the breaching method, like slavery. What caused slavery? A human fact, human nature breaching method had been entrenched since before America's founders were born. And it made everyone hurt each other and sustained roles with that. It made them help them too, insidiously as collusions too, in ways that would screen the breaching methods roles with all of that. All natures of criminal sentences, natures of positive treatment, syntactically, and negative, and names, and the quality of diffusion, neutralities, leaving out. In other words, neutrality is about the invisible but still discernible, which comes with the hyper invisible but still discernible, which requires the discernment of its parts and the relativity to its individual identity of value progression. That which, again, is shown to us per such means, when how that we know we can discern that is not our species body of individual bodies, and is not the other individual species bodies of individual bodies that generated the overall and more, that which is greater than all this and more finite than it, while as itself distinctly, while as us individually grouped it together. But also distinctly itself where it is not juxtaposed with this. And distinctly itself where it is making more of itself with a portion of itself that will juxtapose, but one way, where we have this quality diffusion that enables this, the body of life. It's the Alpha and Omega, the body of Christ. This is also cipher to be deciphered per science. You guys will not allow sanity to speak for any of the sciences or the religions. That's because you guys have collusion /s with the use /s of difference. Same self-value sequence shifts, predicate acts, methods, styles, natures of logic. With all sides of criminal civil cases, the interbranch names, their family members, their sources, the lawyers involved, the names at the crime scenes, relative body typic spots, even when they're not involved with those cases, including criminal enterprises and child abusers, leaders of kids involved with the sense and sensibilities of victims' advocates. Involved too with the people at and next to the state capitol of Connecticut, increasingly collusion /s with predicate acts near me. We're going to pay attention to what you guys have been confessing while pretending other at and next to each age of campus. Please do what's right, Miss O'Connor. Someone was typing in my thing with the name. I believe it was a James Connor, and bringing up, businesses and culture and faking things and on digital. Also with like Mendez police attached me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. And Chris Walters, when I was a kid and then as an adult, he confessed, recorded, demonstrated, confirmed till he has roles with intelligence people intercities next to Central Connecticut, men and women with the name Bobby too. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have collusions with him. and with people with the Board of Education. And he was a nice person. But now these people I've been speaking for him since he was a kid, being used to plant evidence on all sides of my house from other areas, with the people increasingly involved with the first forced child abusers, leaders of kids, and more involved then and now. And they have ongoing. They attached me to my family. I have family members that don't even know I was in the World Trade Center, the court next to it, right before the World Trade Center attack, in a hotel right before it. They attached me to fake conversations about that, as ones that pretended they knew me, to my family members with campuses. Now these are whole careers kept criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and their motivations with that are being used to screen their roles with their actual motivations, which they have time collusions with the Saudi attackers, and worse. See the sense and sensibilities of the voices from Saudi Arabia, from America, their collusions. And Saudi Arabia didn't want to have roles with the people with the hospitals and like with psychiatry. Psychiatry has been putting fake transcripts. A bunch of people, a bunch of courts are professionally and personally involved with the Brendan Leahy. And his father, I believe, is named Brendan Leahy too. And they're women in their family. Multiple generations of their family and people tied to their family next to Harvard Hospital involved with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and some families involved with child abusers, leaders of kids years apart, first forest. A bunch of courts, judges, prosecutors, and their family and victims advocates involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. And sequence shifts, planting evidence on my street, fake ties, fake nature ties to me, with like a Mark Violet and Mike Violet. I never saw him on my street. These people that saw me out too, I never saw them out. And as people involved with a Subby Bajerio too, and the guy he said he stole the speaker box from. I don't know his name. They said his name is Joe. I saw him around in downtown Hartford. Apparently, they have roles with the buildings next to the Capitol, and people next to the Capitol involved with the World Trade Center attack, and their roles with Hartford Hospital. And anything they have legitimate roles with, they have illegitimate uses of it. Use/S, also per use of the location/S. In other words. But if people would follow mandated law, this would have been discovered. So also Harvard Hospital won't communicate with me and they're pretending other by putting fake transcripts, fake recorded things at their location through the mail to other people, but they won't communicate with me. They have all kinds of natures of organized crimes and criminally foreign influence uses of databases. They have a bunch of people from UConn involved, different UConn campuses and campuses interstates involved with these people, with this Leahy family, people with the name Lombardo too. A bunch of people tied to a Leahy family and Lombardo family, increasingly involved with untimely death rolls years apart. And the same weird use/S of the same house, reportedly involved with an untimely death too. One of the untimely deaths was reported at Trinity College. They also planted a fake letter, and they have a girl from New Mexico, and also involved with people from Mexico, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia. A whole bunch of people involved with a whole bunch of probate court judges, superior court judges, and people involved with the Connecticut District Court, involved with predicate acts with facts on my street, identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, and as ones involved with people tied to them who have collusions next to the courts, and people and part of all sides of criminal civil cases and the courts putting the same sequence shifts, the same federal evidences, crimes, and collusion/S, also with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, even when they're not in the cases. A whole bunch of people at Trinity College involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, with people on my street. They used to live on my street. In other words. And with the untimely death, it's recorded. There's a Joshua Stryker that they also brought into it. I never had a campus with him. I saw him one time on campus real quick with a girl who's planting evidences with them, with the people involved with the World Trade Center attack and home break-ins in my area. And her roles with people speaking to the kids of and the families of and the persons of the leaders of the campuses of deans and their kids and families and ties to them, and as principals. These are putting fake things in, and collusion / way worse, that even though they don't understand the extent of on and off campuses connected. Increasingly, the state judicial branch offices and corrections offices and conjunctions to it and to that, like Route 3, Elm Streets and Rocky Hill and Wethersfield. And a Mike Pandolf, I never tried to contact him. He has rules all along Route 3 with syntax regarding some guy with filming people. He worked at a gas station or something, and reporting with my neighbor did too. And I worked at a gas station at the corner of Ray Claw, worked at the corner of Elm Street and Route 3 in Rocky Hill years ago, years before the Mazzucato Bakery was there, which is also involved with people with a name Maiano, who sought me out. I didn't know who he was, but his name was repeated to me by Ray Claw before he graduated. And after he graduated, John Maiano sought me out to make confessions and demonstrations relative. He doesn't know the extent of it. And he also told me he switched with these things he said. He's one of the ones involved with the houses and businesses next to Harvard Hospital and places associated and spots next to the state capitol, involved with criminally foreign influence, tactical collusions with all natures of investigators, and all sides of criminal and civil cases, the interbranch and foreign at the same time, and their educators. Increasingly, too, these people are collusions with mayors and conjunctions to them and to that, and to people associated with corners of the streets relative. Please get me off the fake conversations with WFSB. These are also the sources of WTNH with all kinds of organized crime acts and methods, and people with collusions with all the networks, with Facebook itself, with the FBI too, and other agencies too. It's not just the FBI. So they try to get people to defend their own takes on guilt and things like that, leaving out the rest. In other words, and they have directions to lie to people. They want the people to lie to them so they could. In other words, you guys are supposed to follow mandated law. Fix the fake conversations with me about the World Trade Center attack, and get the interbranch on paper, one name and sequence, and with Judge Napolitano, because they brought him. I tried to contact him before he left Fox News, and since they're changing and faking, hiding what's actually digitally recorded. Black pupils, period. Fear of what they record. Their uses of what they record, they have others recorded than they can afford to have discerned. Not one has learned. I mean, the breaching method. When did the breaching method stop have roles? Our founders told us to explain how that it only allowed roles with slavery, North and South, and there was nothing they could do about it. Otherwise, they would have been sent. They had to hide their roles. They didn't have free speech. James Madison didn't have free speech once he was a president / chief too. Before that and through that, he was our founder. Everyone was using his plan to counter-extort everyone else, to make them break the rules and have no means to defend themselves without becoming a unity. And then the breaching method kept it that the unity be a bunch of fakes, collusions with itself anyway. We're supposed to address that. And we're going to do it now. Because it's involved with the World Trade Center attack. Get me hurt by one person who disbelieves. Just get disconnected. Just focus on the predicate action of the news and with the FBI. FBI has recorded a bunch of ways, collusion /S through time with WFSB, Channel 3 News. And they're leaking this more and more because I have to explain it, the background story of it. They attach me to fake conversations with themselves and with others. They have people that were seated in classes when they specifically criminally foreign to use them as families with identity theft, fraud, slanders against strangers. I never had a word of conversation with Anthony Agnew when I was in a math class. No, I knew that kid. They were planting evidence. I knew it was fishy because she said they repeated about the sexual, about my neighbor kissing, and that it was an love. And I even met her. And that's increasingly collusion / with the people involved on all sides with the intelligence families. They're keeping the intelligence families too afraid to count their hierarchy where it counts. Get them on paper, one name and secret. I don't want to debate people. Don't keep good people evil. And get me someone on response for why I didn't get a response for what I caught them doing with the principal child abuser. And we're going to pay attention to how you guys were hiding such. And further, and please, Miss O'Connor, if that's a James O'Connor tied to you guys, they're involving him needing to hide what his roles. Do you have criminally foreign influence readings of statutes? In other words, it's still involved with, they have rape threats within the Britain Superior Court's Facebook page. They're involved with predicate acts, refusing with interbranch switching and forging names, putting fake transcripts, passion crimes after the World Trade Center attack, as their recorded collusion / with people that intercities they affected requests to help from me. New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts and their families and intimate ties as foreign and domestic families have roles also with ones from Wethersfield at New Britain and West Hartford locations involved with a Dean Judd, his kid, too. Fire campus, little kids' campuses, people with the name O'Neill, too. Increasingly involved with predicate acts, identity theft, fraud, things, people having their kids, collusions with the kids of overt criminal enterprises, private ones. Oh, but that's just we're intelligence, we're like that. It's not just that. You guys follow me into the law. Get me off the fake conversations about the World Trade Center attack. And get me off the fake conversations with the Wethersfield police. And fear to God with the FBI hit with my conversation with them over the phone. They can't be trusted. You can't go to be trusted interbranch. Even the court's putting fake transcripts. Even with the court next to the World Trade Center towers. All rise. Who disbelieves? Get Judge Napolitano to have them respond. Get them on paper. Get me off the fake and change communications and ties to all these people. And about the World Trade Center attack. Fake conversations with my own family members tied to such. And they didn't even know about all the murders and untimely deaths and things brought in. They're trying to make it look like, but your mother said that, trying to make it look like people did things wrong. Oh, we're trying to figure out. They're not doing that honestly. They're fishing because they're caught now. It's all recorded. They're recorded putting fake things to hide their roles. Sick. And pretending, that's not our job, though. In other words, you guys are collusion / with way worse predicate acts with facts and methods of federal evidence crimes, wire crimes, mail crimes, than little kids you put in jails. That are also collusions with the campuses, too. Jeremy Grohl is going to come. Will tell you this. In other words, Jeremy Grohl is one of the ones involved increasingly with people with wire crimes at Wethersfield Police and the Britain Superior Court and the state judicial branch and corrections offices involved with foreign and domestic intelligence, with the sub-Bajario, and a whole bunch of people from other areas involved with the intelligence family that have been planting evidences, like with this Phil Cololo and the Bob Chase and these Mendez police, their roles with them. Mayors, fear God, hide and plot. I rap a lot.